Hello, microphone check 1 2 1 2. Hello, and welcome to Atomic Movie Reviews Film Society. I am your host, Atomicon Rex. Here we discuss films that have a narrative background in aliens, ghosts, robots, and monsters. So, without further ado, let's just jump into it. So, today I want to tackle a topic called retro-causality. It's a time traveling trope, and the best movie that had depicted this was Tenet, and so I kind of want to do a little deep dive on that. So Tenet came out in 2020. It was Christopher Nolan's time travel version, um, his movie, but it kind of messed up because of COVID, so everything was locked down. So it was supposed to come out in March, but I think it ended up coming out at the end of the year. Well, anyways, COVID kind of messed up its primary premiere. So, anyways, Tenet is basically a movie about the CIA, the intel communities, and the different types of secrets that they possessed. Right. So, a synopsis of the movie is a CIA blah blah blah. A CIA agent recruited by a secret program tasked with finding the origins of a device from the future responsible for a devastating attack. Okay, so the main concept of this movie was retro causality, where the effect precedes the causes. So the future war echoes into the past, creating present day hostilities from the future. So basically, the movie is about people in the modern day fighting over something that happens in the future. Um, it kind of ties into like the Roswell lore, where I've heard that what they found was human technology just from the future, or it was the the crash saucer itself was a form of artificial intelligence from the future. Like it was Skynet basically. Okay, and they reverse engineered Skynet. So basically, that's how it connects into the whole Roswell lore. Another TV show that kind of touched on the general concept of what this movie was going on was the, I don't know if I'm saying it right, the peripheral, and that was basically, now in Tenet it doesn't give you like a timeline on like how long the story is, but in that one it's 50 years in the future, and they basically create a time traveling device where they can link to people into the past using VR technology. And doing that, they end up seeding technology development through that, right? So it's like a retro causality. So they seed better technology to the past, which helps whoever develop said technology for their company in the future better, something like that, right? And so in the TV show, basically what you have are people in the future playing a video game, a virtual reality video game that they don't know is an actual time traveling device. Okay. And then like they put the VR headset on, and they're able to puppeteer a robot, a avatar that's in our reality, but it's not a real human being. It's just a an android that they could puppeteer from the future using virtual reality. So it's kind of that concept, right? It's human technology from the future that two different nation states or corporations are using against each other. Okay, so the algorithm. Now, I've kind of formulated an idea of what the algorithm might be. Okay, I clearly think it's AI. I think it's some sort of um, artificial technology or an intelligence that develops time travel. Okay, kind of like Skynet. Like if you put Skynet in a laptop, okay, and break up the laptop and send the laptop into different timelines. That's kind of the way I'm thinking of what the algorithm is. So the algorithm is a bomb of sorts that can delete time itself. It's divided into 9 pieces and it's scattered throughout time. The scientist who invented this, I guess, commits suicide to prevent the misuse of the device. So what she does is she invents the device, right, where you can basically invert the entire planet, and it turns the entire planet into its primal state, into a state of chaos. The whole world just turns to water, right? Probably does it instantly. Okay, and then she turns the time back, right? She fixes the timeline. Okay, now that she realizes the power that she has, okay, she takes the device and she scatters the device throughout time and space, and then she kills herself, right? But whoever was working with her, um, and help her develop the device, um, wants the device too. Okay. Wait, no, pause. Let me correct that. What I think is happening is that there's either two nation states or two government corporations going at it. And one uses a weapon based, a weather based technology. We'll call it the algorithm for lack of a better word. Okay, that basically floods the entire planet, right? So it echoes back in time as gods flooding the earth and stuff like that, right? It becomes mythical, but they're really just two corporations just battling out. One uses a weather weapon and devastates everything. The person using the weather weapon is not worried about the flood, okay? Either because, like on the biblical narrative, they use the weapon, but they're on a boat. They're on a self-sustaining ship that's in the middle of the ocean. And so when they use the device and flood the world, it doesn't affect them. Or they're stationed on the moon, okay, where it's still flooding the earth, doesn't really affect them. Okay, so it's either one or the other. And that's probably the reason why they have no problem using the device against somebody else, because using the device either then or in the past, it's not really going to affect them because they're either water based, um, government, society, business, or moon based. Okay, where they don't have to worry about the damages of the flood. Okay, moving on. Okay, so you have the hero who is Kaze-su. He's basically self-caused, right? Kaze-su means self-caused. Imagine yourself into existence. He hired himself and possibly himself sent himself back in time after taking some mind-wiping pill. That's what I think the CIA pill, the cyanide pill, really is. It doesn't really kill him, but it kind of like wipes his mind. At least the first time he took it. This creates an ontological feedback loop in time against himself. So part of the mission is finding out who he really is. Okay, once he finds out who he really is, the second part of the mission or the final part of the mission or whatever um, takes place and initiates and goes from there. So he sends information back in time to create desired outcomes for the future. So the villain is the concept that they followed him with, because I think that they're bending two genres. I think there are two time traveling concepts being played in this movie. Um, the reverse entropy is just kind of a like a trope. It doesn't really mean anything. Um, so I think the villain is predestined because as the story unfolds, you learn that he had sent information to himself in a time capsule that was buried underneath a nuclear explosion. And inside of this time capsule was a couple bars of gold and basically a document with instructions. So, in order for him to really take advantage of that, like whatever that document said was really specific to him. Okay, for him to like really believe what it said. So I do believe that the document was sent by himself. Like I don't think he was recruited by another person. Like I think he himself is a time traveler like the protagonist. They may be working for the same company or on the same side. What I really think is I think Sater is the scientist that develops the algorithm, or at least the AI that creates the algorithm. Because if you think about it, in order to create such a device, you have to first believe that time travel is even possible, right? It's possible. You'll believe it's possible if you send yourself some information from the future that's directly towards you, right? And then another point I want to make is that we find out that he has no plans on sending collecting the algorithm and sending it back into the future. Once he gets the algorithm, he detonates it. He commits suicide, right? And so that's kind of the tale of the person with the algorithm in the future that they get the device and detonate it and then reset it and then commit suicide so no one else is able to use it again, right? And that's kind of, I think that's Sater. I think Sater is the scientist that creates the algorithm in the future. That's what I think. I think he's the real bad guy. Like this guy Andrew Sater is like a societal god of chaos trying to return everything back to its original state. Like that's his like singular motivation. Okay, like he's like the big bad of the entire past, present, and future. Okay, and like I said, I think the weapon, the algorithm, may be some form of artificial intelligence or like a formula to create time travel. The suicide could be a metaphor for withdrawing the technology and then scattering it throughout time and space from an AI's perspective. Location Stocks 12. I guess it's like one of these closed, secret Russian cities. This is where the nuclear detonation occurs. So they make it like it's like this whole time travel shenanigans happens far, far in the future, where it may be like it may all happen within a week, right? Like they detonate the Andrew Sater detonates the time travel algorithm, turns everybody turns everything into an ocean. Okay, resets the time. Okay, gets attacked or whatever by the other forces, breaks up the time machine, sends it back in time. Like it all happens within a week, where it's not like 1,000 years, 500 years, or 50 years. It's not on that type of time scale. I think it all happens within a week. And another thing I did notice, which gave me the whole biblical argument, was the Tenet ship. Now, there's a scene in the movie where you see the Tenet ship and it's like moving backwards, but I didn't think. I just thought they were like using. Um, I thought they were just inverted, but the entire ship is inverted on the ocean. So it's like a the entire ship is a time machine, right? And they're using the entire ship as a time machine, which makes sense. If you had to go through, because the way time travel works in this um movie is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have to live each single day, and when you go back through time, you have to do Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, right? You have to live it all again. To not be affected by the environment or the weather or anything like that, it's probably best to be stationed on the ocean, right? Like you might have to deal with a couple storms and everything, but as a whole, nothing's really going to change in your environment from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from week to week. So it makes sense that, like I said, my argument before, whoever uses the time traveling device is not worried about a flood because they're probably stationed on a boat or on the moon. So let me sum it up. So this is basically because this movie is kind of really hard to kind of understand and put in a box. And so this is my understanding or my conclusion of Tenet. All happens one day on the 14th. A nuclear explosion triggers global warming for the future, right? Sater is tasked by the future or himself to gather the algorithm and send it back to the future. Sater gathers the algorithm, does not send it back, but detonates it at Stocks 12 on the 14th, right? So the protagonist team, Priya's or the woman's, her team, Tenet, is tasked by people from the future to prevent Sater from detonating the device. So that's what I think is happening. So I think it's all revolves around Sater, and they find out that he like basically destroys the world, and they turn back the hands of time. They they're only able to turn back the hands of time for 1 week. Okay, so they have 1 week to fix the problem, and that's what I think the story is really about. Atomic Conrex out. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.